management company's presentations to the board of directors and the Sandoval community. The live stream is simulcast on Sandoval's official communications Facebook page, Sandoval Cape Coral. Alternate viewing of this meeting is also available for your convenience 24/7 on our YouTube channel, Sandoval Video Box, and on Sandoval's website, www.livesandoval.com. Consider subscribing to support Sandoval Video Box on YouTube by clicking both the subscribe button and bell to be notified of future meetings and presentations by Sandoval Communications. The meeting will begin shortly. Sandoval Communications thanks you for your support and participation by watching the presentation.
Good morning. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, so today we have our second workshop, and I'll take the roll call. Vice President Ron Spooner. Ron?
Present via call-in.
Okay, great, thank you. Treasurer Bill
Yes,
Tubb?
I'm here, present via call-in.
Got it, gotcha, thank you. Bill Tubb, Treasurer?
Present.
Okay. Director Palmer? Present. L. Roper?
Present.
Don Wells? Director Wells?
Present by call-in.
Okay, great. And Scott DeFilippis is not available. Great, thank you. And proof of notice. Okay, super, thank you. All right, thank you again for joining us today for the second workshop to explore HOA management options, recognizing that our current management company, Pope Property, remains in play. At the September board meeting, Melanie Palmer addressed the scope and uniform process taken by the ad hoc committee to conduct a fair comparison among all candidates. Effort was made to evaluate the level of services and the fees separately. The ad hoc committee now has facilitated these two workshops, the one held yesterday involving Castle Group and Associa Gulf Coast, and the second one this morning now, the interviews, to assist the board in further evaluating quality and value prior to any board decision and vote moving forward. So we're going to take a slight pause and welcome our guests. Thank you. All right. Good morning. I'm Kathy Conway, President of the Sandoval Community Association Board of Directors, and today we're meeting with representatives from Precedent Hospitality. On behalf of the Sandoval Community Association Board of Directors, I'd like to welcome each of you to Sandoval as we further our property management requests for proposal efforts. And today joining us is Lola Kavarik, Executive Vice President of Accounting based in Clearwater, Florida. Christine Stamp, the Regional Director based in Fort Myers. And Wendy Murray, based out of Fort Myers, Vice President. And Wendy served as our designated point of contact for the RFP, so thank you for your assistance with that. And joining us from the Sandoval side, I'll ask my colleagues to introduce themselves. We have two on the phone. So on the phone, if you'd go first, please, Ron and Don.
Yes, hi, my name is Ron Spooner, and I'm a director at Sandoval.
And I'm Don Wells, and I'm also a director at Sandoval.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Al Roper. I'm the director.
Bill Tubb, I'm the treasurer.
Melanie Palmer, director.
All right. And we also have our general manager, Casey Pinella, joining us today. So thank you. The format for today's interview session is a 15-minute presentation from your side, followed by a 45-minute Q&A session and hopefully a good informative discussion. We're excited to hear from you. So let's get started. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us here today. Can you hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, I wanted to clear my throat first. So my name's Wendy Murray. I'm with Precedent Hospitality. Our home office is in Clearwater, and then we have an office in Fort Myers and Naples, and we're currently negotiating space on 47th Street in Cape Coral. We've been managing associations since 1982. I've been in the business since 97. I served as board president of my HOA of more than 600 homes for 13 years. So I understand what it means to be a board member and your expectations of management. We want to make it easier for you. So our company really focuses on core management, making sure that we deliver. Our home office has a client services team. We have performance metrics that measure incoming calls, abandoned calls, and our response times. Lola is a certified fraud examiner, and we have CPA and MBA. She has a lot of degrees, maybe some I missed, but she oversees our accounting team. She's been in the business for more than 20 years in the condo and HOA industry. And then we have Christine Stamp, that's our regional director here for Lee County, Lee and Collier. She's been with the company for several years. She started in portfolio management and then went to on-site and now regional director. So that's our team here today. When I say that we focus on core management, we want to make sure that we deliver according to your board policies, according to your expectations, and we provide different reports to show you how we deliver. So you don't have to wonder, what's the manager doing? We never see her or him. We provide you with weekly reports and monthly reports to demonstrate the accomplishments. It's a high-level view. It's not a comprehensive list, but it lets you know what's going on in your community. You get those reports, the weekly reports, every Friday, and we keep you informed along those lines. Our Sync software is our management software, and it allows us to do email blast, upload website documents. Owners can log in, look at your individual account. If you have missed a payment, you have the ability to pay online. You can pay by credit card, electronic check, regular mail, and you can set up bill pays or ACH. You have all those payment methods. Our management software, Sync, also allows you to process invoices electronically. So whomever the board designates as the approver of the invoices, typically it goes to the manager first. The manager would code the invoice and either approve or hold it. You may be holding it to make sure that the landscaper put flowers in and you want to check the flowers first, but you have the ability to hold, approve, or decline an invoice. Once the manager does that, then I'll just use the treasurer, for example. The treasurer would get an email advising their invoices for approval. The treasurer or designated person would then log in, and they would see the invoice images, and they would also be able to see the coding. So if the manager didn't code the invoice properly, they could hold the invoice and they can change the coding. So that's a two approval process on the invoices. The board members have the ability to pull reports in sync. Owners have the ability to see their own accounts, but the board can see the association accounts. Your financials, your aging report, violations, work orders, things like that. So that's kind of a broad overview about our management software, our focus, and our team. I don't know if I lasted the 15 minutes or not, but I want to see if Christine or Lola wants to add anything to what I said. If you want, you can.
Okay. Thank you for having us and giving us the opportunity to come in front of the board of Sandoval. As Wendy said, I have the experience of over 20 years in condos and HOAs industry, but I have also almost 30 years in accounting field. And I've been very familiar with different industries, such banking, and I know your investments are the most critical part of your financial statements. I actually have been doing Sandoval financials for 5 months, 5 to 6 months. I was at Pope, a controller at Pope Properties 4 years ago, and because of the faraway driving from the house that we purchased in Clearwater, I had to change the job that time. So very familiar with your financials. Actually, I had a pretty good relationship with the board at that time and helped them to have the cable funds separated in the books and all that stuff that they wanted at that time. So something to tell you about the Sandoval. So I'm familiar with your community.
Thank you. We know that even if our management team does great, if we mess up the money, that's the most critical thing. And so we take a lot of pride in having Lola oversee our accounting team. Because she's a certified fraud examiner, she set up strong internal controls and segregation of duties at home office. For instance, when we submit check requests and other items, we're always required to have receipts and safeguards along those lines. And she also instituted what we call CyberGuard, which is the daily reconciliation of your accounts instead of monthly. It's on a daily basis to be able to identify fraud if it was to happen quickly, to safeguard your assets.
Excuse me, what did you call it?
CyberGuard.
We don't wait. It's called a daily reconciliation. If you're familiar with the positive pay that usually banks process every day, this is part of our software system, which is actually cutting-edge industry on the management companies, especially for this size of the communities, HOAs and condos. The CyberGuard is a program that every day you reconcile the bank account. You don't wait for the bank statements to come down by the end of the month. So by the end of the month, you just wrap up the finals, and then you should have the financial statements close to the first week of the month, of the following month. By doing that, it helps to prevent a fraud, which is more important because now we know how the industry is working, especially on last few months of the COVID. The fraud awareness has been increased, and we did not had any, but we are listening from other companies as well that are having issues with protection of the association funds. Then second is if you find something right away, we know the commercial is different from the personal accounts, bank accounts, and it takes longer to recover the funds that they get lost. So that prevents on the same day to cut and to identify and go back to the bank. So that's something that differentiate us from other management companies and other softwares that they use.
Our management software is integrated with the bank, so our accounting team gets real-time information. That allows them to do the daily reconciliations, and it also allows you to look at your funds as well, the board. We look at management as a relationship, and we partner with you. We take our direction from you. You're the decision makers. But we work with you to develop different policies so that we don't have to ask you for every decision, but we already know what your intent is. And I think I had shared in one of our communications that if you already have staff that you like or vendors that you like, it's never our intent to upset the apple cart. We value relationships. So if you have vendors that you like and staff, we work with you to keep those.
I want to add that the board will have access to our accounting software, internal accounting software. The manager will have a live access, but the rest of the board will have read-only access, which is 24/7, 365 days a year. It's live interface with the banking and live interface with all the other postings that we do in the system. The board will be able to pull all kinds of reports, and we have pretty good instructions in place. Training, hand-to-hand, by phone, Zoom, any kind of communication that we are preferring to go forward.
The way that we're set up with a regional director and a VP is to provide added oversight to our managers. We take a team approach to management. We have manager meetings usually once a month. Right now, because of COVID, we've really utilized Zoom and Microsoft Teams. A year ago, I didn't even know what Zoom was, and now I'm on 5 meetings a week. And it's a great tool, but we use this for educating our CAMs. We're in the middle of budget season, as you know, and so we're big on supporting our managers and having resources available for them. Lola always teaches a class in July about how to do a budget. We don't assume that people know how. And she also does workshops on how to read a financial. So if you had a finance committee or anyone that wanted that workshop, we would be able to do it.
And one thing I just wanted to add too is we have a big involvement in the community with education-based training. We hold several events a year. Unfortunately, it's been held up by COVID with different vendors in the community that provides education not just for the CAMs but also the board members. And we strive ourselves on keeping you educated so that you can make your best decisions as well. So I just wanted to add that.
That's true. We just switched to webinars about 2 months ago. So we're progressing with the times as well as far as our board educational events. Okay, so we'll take your questions. This is our favorite part because this is when we get to hear what's important to you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. We appreciate that you were able to come and join us today. So I'm going to ask Melanie to start with the questions, and
Sure.
Technology is her forte. So
Yeah, I'm actually very interested in hearing more about Sync. Is it Sync? With one of our challenges, I mean, email's great for some things, but it's not great for everything. So from your Sync app or website, can you tell us a little bit more about how that benefits residents to be able to get self-service communication?
You want to go? All of us are like chomping at the bit for that one. You go ahead because you know more.
Sync software it's spelled CINC. Is an Atlanta-based company. Actually, the founder of this software is a banking CEO, bank founder of First Century Bank. So he pretty much started this software as a banking, support his banking, and then moved up to the level of having the management company using. It's, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, it's a cutting-edge industry. It's one of the most preferable softwares today. And it's pretty expensive because it helps to automate the system. And we all know that automating a system has to have a process in place of implementations, because if you implement something wrong, that automation doesn't work. So if for the management companies and for type of your business, that software is pretty good on automation. I know that Sandoval always had something about the collections, the collection module. It's one of the best modules that this software provides. Pretty much we don't have to do letters like other management companies or like others do by the 10th or by 20th or by the date. We have the collection policy approved from the board of directors. We implement that collection policy, and the system itself generates levels, certain levels of the delinquent owners, counts the days per Florida statute, and all the backup support that is needed is on the owner's ledgers, electronically saved. So when time comes to forward someone to attorney, that hopefully we don't have many, but if we need to forward someone to attorney, that backup support the attorney's office always look like the collection attorney. It's part of the ledger, and it generates an email and it goes to attorney itself. We always take the direction from the board of directors, even the collection policy is in place, because we want to make sure that they are probably more familiar than us back in the office, behind the computers, that something is going on with that particular homeowner. So always the board is the one to review before something goes out to the final phase. As sync, there are two parts, and both ladies will explain probably more about the website. But there is a sync accounting and there is a sync website. Okay. The sync website is the one that provides access to all homeowners to process to see their ledgers live all the time, whenever they can ask to see their account, to send email blast, to process the work order, to submit our architectural request, and then goes directly to the board of directors, to the general manager, and to board of directors to review the documents, anything that per statute is required on the website. So there will be two access, one for the board members and one for the owners. The owners will see exactly what the owners are about to see, and the board of directors will have the expanded access. The board of directors will have access to approve invoices through the website. But at the same time, to make everyone feel comfortable, we always give access, a read-only access to sync accounting, which helps the board to see where their financial statements are on a daily basis. Regarding sync website, it can be adjusted. Am I? Yeah. all the time with the pictures, with the thing.
Yes.
And, so I'll let
you want me to talk about that?
Yes.
Sure. So the homeowner's sync login has different options. You can do a scrolling message. So if you have an important information about trash pickup, things like that, that's automatically scrolling. If you have different events and you want to change photos, that's more of the beautification part of the website. If you want to get to the meat and potatoes of it, we have guest registration options on there that you could register a guest and it would go directly to whoever manages that and approves it. They can put in work orders if that's authorized through the board here. That goes directly to the manager to either approve or move forward. They can check to see if they have a violation and the status of their violation on there. That's one of the best parts of the website. So once the manager puts in, or the compliance manager puts in a violation, it automatically updates that homeowner's website. So not only are they getting a letter or an email, their account is automatically registered with that. The board members, when they log in, they're able to pull a work order list as well. So the board members can see what's outstanding, what's not. They can also see violation lists as well there too. Additionally, they're able to see any document that you have on the website. So if you have your financials, if you have different events, there's an interactive calendar and things like that. Did you want to add anything?
No charge, right? Sorry. Yeah, is that already included in the charge of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, everything is included.
Okay. And then my other question is there an associated app that goes with that, or is the website responsive that it'll adapt to my phone?
You have access to your phone.
Okay.
Yes, and then I'm working on an app for the homeowners to make the payment through the phone. Yes. Shortly, they're developing the app. Actually, is in a test, beta test phase. To install an app, you can pull the app just for sync and make the payments through the phone, submit architectural request, do the work order, anything you need to. But it'll be through your phone. And yes, you can access through the phone.
Okay.
And we have iPads that have the sync software in the iPad for doing violations. So when you're in the field, the compliance coordinator can just click by the drop down as to the violation, and you can do it all from an iPad.
It attached the pictures, and violation letters are printed in the office after.
We currently have a community website that does a lot of what you're talking about. Would we be required to abandon that to go on to Sync, or do they operate independent of each other?
No, you're not required to abandon it. What we would ask you is for permission to put our link on your site to say pay here. That way they could just click on to make a payment. But you absolutely can keep your same website. We would just add a link. And I have to say, I am the least technical. I joined the age later than everyone else, and I have to say it's very user-friendly and easy to navigate because I consider myself one of the slowest people technology-wise. And in budget season, I've used it to pull invoices for different vendors to make sure, like some of those big line items, for example, like building and exterior, encompasses a lot. So sometimes we'll pull the invoices to see if we should have set up a different GL line item. And I've been able to do that very easy. So that speaks volumes for the software because I'm slow.
Yeah, I mean, from the board perspective, we're always, kind of aware and looking for stuff and watching for things. From a resident, they just live here, so they don't think to go out to the website all the time, which is where it's nice to be able to actually push some of that information to give them a message or an alert on certain things as they come up.
I have to say, during hurricane season, every association has a hurricane plan that we manage, and we post that on the website. We communicate it, but we use a text system as well. So when we're in the cone of concern, board members get text, and if you approve, we text the owners or email out information as well.
Okay. Okay, great. Al?
I see that you offer online voting for a fee. Can you expound on that a little bit?
We use a company called Host, HOAST. And it's based out of Tampa, and it's integrated with our software Sync. They're the ones that are the experts for online voting. They have it very secure. They're able to intersync and download owner list whenever they need it. So they do it on a daily basis to make sure they have the most up-to-date owner list. As far as their fee, it's $700, and then I believe it's $1 a unit on top of that. And that cost provides unlimited voting for the whole year. So if you wanted to take various votes, you would only pay once for the whole year. Okay. And they
$2 a door is what you said here.
Is it $2? I know it's $1 or $2, and then I believe the base fee is $700.
Okay, so
and that provides access for the whole year.
So that'd be $35.50 for a year as a service for us.
Yeah, and because of your size, we might be able to negotiate with that vendor and get it cheaper. We would try. Okay. But we've been using it lately for annual meetings, and we found that maybe not with your HOA, but some of the HOAs were required to take nominations from the floor. So what we did was we partnered with the association's attorney to get them to adopt a resolution to allow similar to condo voting, where you have intent to runs beforehand so that we can create the ballot and people can vote ahead of time. But we have used it as well without the resolution, and smaller HOAs with no problem. They're able to vote securely online. So it's one of the things that have really, it's been out there for a while, but not really used much till this year. And we've been using. Is
electronic voting the only option for your associations?
No, we have some we meet in person, and then we do Zoom meetings.
No, I mean voting.
Well. As far as voting?
Do you have paper ballots?
Yes.
Ballots as
Oh,
well?
yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
For sure. We just did a special assessment at a community that's on the water in North Fort Myers. It's only a 184-unit condo, but they did a special assessment, and everything was hard paper ballots. And what we did was they had a big meeting hall, and we had a temperature check before people came in, and people wore masks, and we had it set up for the social distancing. But we absolutely can do ballots.
Okay. Al, do you want to ask about maintenance?
Sure. Community maintenance is always an ongoing issue. For example, here, we had a drinking fountain that needed to be replaced, a toilet that needs to be replaced. When COVID came around, when you came in the entryway here, we had to put those plexiglass dividers up. How would you approach that with a maintenance person? Do you have a qualified maintenance person to do all that, or would you have that done by outside vendors?
We can do both. We have a maintenance division that has what we call roving maintenance for those items. It's more of a handyman type maintenance that is available as you need it. Everything from certified pool operators to very specialized maintenance people. So we could use our division to dispatch someone for work like that. But if you had a handyman service that you prefer to use, we would work with them. You're not required to use our people, but we do have it available. We have several maintenance techs in the area.
Okay, so there would not be one on site?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. We could have one on site. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking about roving. Yes, we can have a maintenance tech on site, and they would have the support of our maintenance division.
Okay.
Depends on your needs as to the number of maintenance techs and the skill set, but absolutely.
And then this person would also be qualified to, be inspecting, going out, looking at the common areas, looking for, replacing a tennis court net or,
Sure.
small little handyman jobs like that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Don? Don, are you?
I'll listen today. Yeah, I'm here, but I'll listen today.
Okay, very good. Ron?
Yeah, I just have a couple quick questions. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give us and hopefully I didn't miss it, can you give us an overview of what sort of technology you employ to do deed restriction enforcement?
So we use our Sync software, CINC. It's cloud-based, and it's integrated with the bank, but it's our management software, so it's integrated across the board. Managers have the option to go out with a pen and paper, or they can go out with an iPad that already has Sync uploaded on it. And when they're in the field, they do the violation. It goes into our software. The owner is able to look online to see any correspondence received. They can look at the status of an architectural application, and they can look at the status of a violation to see whether or not it was closed out. We work with the board's compliance policy to enforce the covenants, and we use the software for the violation reports, for the communications, and architectural processing that's associated. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, but we can do it old school with a pen and paper, or we can do it with the management software.
Additionally, if I may add, with the
Okay,
management,
thank you.
just one thing to add, I apologize. Also, with the compliance policy of the association, we have automated notification process of time for advancement. So if you do a friendly reminder policy, that'll be set up. If you do a first violation, second violation, and then fining, however you do it, it's an automated timeline so that you'll be notified that you're up for your next violation, so the manager doesn't miss that.
Excellent. Thank you.
And it's flagged in the
My
system.
Okay. My next question is, when do you have a internal deadline for monthly financials?
The usual deadline is by the 15th, but if the board of directors ask to have the financials on the first week of the month, and we have all the necessary information available, especially the bank statements that you may use other banks than depository one, definitely will be ready by the first week, by the end of the first week, usually in 5 business days.
Okay.
Initially, I'm
that's
sorry.
about my questions right now.
Okay, in the proposal that you gave us, the total cost of health care is not shown. I'm assuming that's rolled into your personnel site that you did. Can you tell us how much that would cost Sandoval for our full-time employees?
It's part of it.
On the on-site employee estimated burden, I have 5,400.
Yes, 5,400 annual fee.
Per person?
Per person is $450 for the health care, vision, and dental. That is based on the billable employees. So if you have 4 employees that they have chosen health insurance, it will be $5,400 a year multiplied by 4.
$450 per employee per month.
$450 per month per employee, per billable employee. Yes.
Okay.
And full-time.
Okay.
Part-time won't
Right.
be eligible for the...
They wouldn't qualify.
Yes. It's passed through to the association.
And that is, in your proposal, that is included in the personnel site
Yes.
number? Okay.
Yes. In a total.
Okay. Does our auditing CPA have access, remote access to our records
Yes.
for our audits?
Yes, definitely. And except that we provide the information in sync with everything, sync website and sync accounting. CPA and myself, usually I'm the first one to hand all the CPA's questions along with the board for all the audits that they are part of our company. And yes, they do have access online to pull invoices. They don't have to come in the office like the old style that they used to.
Okay, and what bank do you use? You mentioned that you've got a relationship with a bank and you have online real-time access to things.
Yes.
Would we be required to change our bank?
Depository banking, yes, but you still can maintain the existing operating account. We just have to collect the funds into the depository account and then move them to BB&T account. You're still using BB&T, I'm sure, right? So we can transfer funds on a daily basis to BB&T account. Our Popular Bank is a sync partner bank, and that because they interface their softwares together, it's kind of is no charge at all. That's why even to the homeowners. So if you have non-sufficient funds for the homeowner association, will not pay anything. That cost goes to the banking.
Okay, well, I asked you for the name of that bank.
Popular Bank.
Popular Bank.
Popular Bank, yes. Is based in Miami.
Do they have any branches here in Lee County?
Not on this area. Not on this area.
It was formerly Banco Popular, and they had worked to get one of the first lockbox systems years ago in the Miami-Broward County area, and then launched it throughout. But they've had the lockbox system for banking for many years. There's only, to my knowledge, 4 banks that's integrated with Sync statewide. Popular Bank we use because they've been in the business the longest, and they work very smoothly with our system. But like Lola was saying, if you had a bank, regardless of which bank it is, that you wanted your operating funds, the deposit would go into the lockbox for a Popular Bank, and we could do a sweep over to the one that you wanted. We just need the deposits to come in through Popular because that's integrated with the accounting system, and you would not have the efficiency if we didn't do the deposit.
We still can maintain BB&T, but it's not going to integrate live with Sync. It will require extra manual work to do that.
what I'm thinking. If Sync cut checks from a bank other than Popular Bank?
Yes, we have multiple associations that they use depository account, only Popular Bank as a depository, and then every other information, the checks and deposits goes through the BB&T. We use BB&T a lot.
So in that case, you would not be able to do the daily reconciliations that you're talking about because you wouldn't have the information.
I have to dedicate someone to pull up everyday BB&T information to go ahead and do the daily reconciliation. Okay. But if we have Popular as a depository only, then there is no need to dedicate someone. It will be the staff accountant.
What about our investments? Currently, we're with Bank of Mutual of Omaha.
Yes.
Do you have a financial relationship with some other broker or some other facility?
We have, and I should have bring today the cover page, but Wendy can email it to you later. We have a cover page. Our financial statements are prepared as a fully packaged, required per statute, all the reports, and then additional reports that the board may want. So except the cover page of the financial statements, there is a financial highlights. So everything that happened to the community on the financials for the community during the month, it's highlighted into a couple of the first pages before the balance sheet. In addition to that, we prepare a bank rate sheet that it's part of the financial statements every month. Because of the broader network we have of the different banks and relationships and brokers, we get the best rates 2 days before the end of the month, prepare the bank rate sheets, and provide that to all our clients. Based on that, there is a quote at the end of the sheet, and then there is if the board wants to have to look their investment, it will be my name in there and my direct line and phone number and email address to work together on an investment strategy. So except the CDs, that is the most popular product for the associations, we provide the CDARS information from different banks. I'm sure you have the BB&T CDARS, and I'm sure you know the CDARS, what it stands for. And then in addition to that, we help to have ICS account. ICS are insured cash sweeps accounts. These have the highest rate today in market for the interest. Their liquidity, you can use them anytime you want, and you don't have to get locked down like CDs. And they have a really good rates so far. We have a couple banks today that they have 0.9 on the ICS account, insured cash sweeps accounts. Popular Bank has the same thing as well. Attach the sweep account, insured cash sweep, to the operating or reserves. You keep the threshold in a minimum, so you maximize your interest into the insured cash sweep accounts.
Does your company participate in fees or commissions
through
that?
No, absolutely not. This is an extra without charge, is an extra help that the company likes to give the boards, and considering now that how the rates are out there, we have been pretty good on working with the different boards. Before this happened, the COVID, I was able to help multiple boards on investing with Treasury Direct, the T-bills. Mm-hmm. And that was something that not many management companies do it. Setting up with the T-bills, I was able to work with the boards on auctions, and every 4 weeks or different maturity, a length of maturity, working with them together on a T-bills as well.
Okay. That's all I have.
So along those lines, we make sure that you're FDIC insured. So when an account is looks like it's going to go over the limit, we provide you with options. CDARS is laddered CDs, and then the cash sweep account is laddered money market funds, which are liquid. And then the third option is usually a fidelity bond, something along those lines. But like Lola was saying, to expand on that, the cover sheet has the bank rates. It also has your insurance policies when they're going to renew. So you have that financial snapshot on the top. So you have your insurance policy renewal dates, any CDs that you have, their renewal dates. So it's in front of you.
Okay, thank you.
We pretty much designated for the treasurer, to help the treasurer, most than anyone else.
Yes, you do. So tell me a little bit about what assistance you provide with vendor oversight, ensuring that, in fact, the vendor is meeting the terms of the contract, especially in the size of the community of Sandoval.
Okay, vendor management starts with the vendor setup. We require each vendor to give us a certificate of insurance and a W-9. It's entered into sync. So let's say that Happy Landscaping Company is your landscaping vendor, and then I go to approve an invoice. It may not let me approve the invoice if their insurance is expired. It will stop, so that we have that safeguard in the system to make sure that we always have current insurance on file for the vendor. So the system doesn't allow you to approve an invoice unless the current insurance is on file. So one of the first things the manager does is to get familiar with your contracts, because your contracts define the expectations for the service, whether it's landscaping, the number of cuts per year, the number of trims or pool service, whatever the frequency of service is and the details of that service. The manager would oversee the vendor to make sure they are delivering according to the contract. If they fail to deliver or start to have performance issues, they would bring different items to their attention, areas that they're declining in. I'll use landscaping as an example because that's a common one. Often they'll have crew members change and their performance can go down and then come back up. And so that's one that we usually do a landscaping walk with and point out some deficiencies, give them the opportunity to correct it. If we see that there's a pattern of poor performance, we bring it to the board, or if you have a landscaping committee, we bring it to your attention to let you know the pattern of deficiencies and to see if you'd like for us to go out to bid. In the event that you say that you do want to go out to bid, then we would develop the RFP, put it out to bid, and then when we get the proposals, provide you with all the proposals and then a bid analysis, which is a spreadsheet with the differentiators of the companies. Our goal is to just make sure that the vendors perform according to your contract, especially if you really like that vendor and have had them for years. We look at it as a partnership. But we try to bring it to their attention because on any given day, I mean, our company is not perfect either. And so on any given day, something can happen because we're all human. And so it's what they do to resolve it. We look at those things, and we'll let the board know if there's a pattern of defects.
Okay. And then what level of service is your standard regarding responding to residents' inquiries via email or phone or to a board member or to a vendor?
It's a great question. We have SOPs, our standard operating procedures. For phone calls, you should receive a phone call returned within 4 business hours, and emails are 24 business hours. Usually it's 24 hours, but when it's a Friday, then it's a Monday. But typically the email turnaround is within 24 hours, and return phone calls are within 4 business hours.
Mm-hmm. And are they tracked and logged or managed? How are they managed from a productivity or an efficiency standpoint?
So we have a client services department that handles, I would say, 90% of the calls. If someone wants to request a lease application or an architectural application, maybe they're a new owner and they want to know what day is trash pickup, they call that number and all of that data is tracked. We track the incoming calls. Anyone that may have hung up, maybe they were placed on hold and they hung up, they're called back. So we have performance metrics for the client services team. We can set up certain metrics for the on-site office, but it's not as extensive as the one we have in home office.
Mm-hmm. So that client services is external to the office staff here, correct?
Yes.
And they would be informed on our processes and our SOPs?
Oh, yes. We do.
And this would be during regular working hours or just after hours or weekends?
It's during business hours, but after hours, our phones are manned by people. So if someone had a property emergency, it's 24/7 after hours line as well, which is our main number. You just hit a different prompt because it's after hours.
So explain how I'm a resident and I have an ARC application. I can forward it online, and I would forward it to client services?
So this is where we take our direction from you.
Okay.
We can have requests come through the on-site office, or we can have them go through client services.
Okay.
So I'll give you the example through client services. If an owner wants to put a request in, they can email it, they can fax, or they can call. Mm-hmm. And all three methods, you can go to the website and submit an architectural application or a lease application, or you could email it to info@precedentmanagement.com. You can fax it. You can bring it to the on-site office and hand it to the manager. Or you could call and say, look, can you email me an application? Even though it's available on the website,
right.
Not everyone uses
right.
the website, so we would email it to them with instructions.
Okay, that's great. All right, so we'll start again. Melanie?
I have a follow-up to
sorry.
that.
Pardon me.
You said they could bring it in and hand it in to the on-site manager. Would that on-site manager then digitize it to put it into the system, or would that one stay paper and move around?
Yes. All
Yes,
of our
great.
records are electronic, so they would digitize it as
Okay.
well. But if your architectural committee, if it's an architectural application and if they require 2 hard copies, then they would follow your process.
Okay.
But we always keep one digital as well.
Okay. Al?
Okay. From the new clients that you obtain, what is the most pressing issue that you have to address?
That is a good question. We take transition very seriously. There's an assigned transition coordinator on our team, and we have meetings with her every Tuesday to go over the punch list. As good as we are, part of it does hinge on the previous management company because we depend on them to provide us with documents and records timely. And I have to say, knock on wood, that most of our competition does so. Every now and then we'll hit a bump where maybe they're having their own software conversion and we don't get things timely. But with that exception, which is not the case in your case, but that being the only exception, our transitions go smoothly. The transition coordinator is the hub and the wheel, so they work with the head of accounting, Lola, the head of our administrative team, our IT team, and human resources to make sure each team is delivering their parts of the transition. So the administrative team would be busy rebranding your forms, making sure that wherever the forms need to say precedent is listed on there. It has current numbers, current email addresses. They rebrand the forms. The manager presents it to you to see if you want to make any revisions before it's uploaded to your website. So there's a lot of parts that start from the get-go. Accounting, they start with the owner roster, and then they also get your contracts, your audit, tax return, and vendor information. And then our accounts payable team starts contacting those vendors to let them know where to send their invoices. Our manager would provide you with what we call our welcome packet. We would see if you want any of the language changed. We tailor it to what you desire for the communication. If the board wants to add a letter, you can do that as well. That welcome packet is the communication we're going to send to all your owners to let them know we're selected for management and answer their most important questions first. How to reach us. If they are prepaid, assuring them that they're still going to show prepaid. How to make a payment options. We answer most of their first questions in the welcome packet. We also ask the board if we can do like a meet and greet on site where people can come in and meet us. Right now, because of COVID, some of those meet and greets are done through Zoom. But we usually will do like a town hall meet and greet, even through Zoom, and field questions. Most of the questions we see from owners are payment related. They want to make sure if they're set up with ACH, that they're going to be, how do they set up ACH with us? If they're prepaid, they want to make sure that we're going to know that they're prepaid and things like that. So transition usually starts the moment the contract's signed. The bulk of the transition is done within 30 days. And then at the 60-day mark, usually those are wrap-up things. Like maybe we're recruiting for staff, things like that, or ironing out maintenance responsibilities, doing a matrix of the responsibilities of the owner, the association, responsibilities of the maintenance person, things like that, and developing policies. We look to see that you have a collection policy, a compliance policy, and if you want, we do one for banking or investments as well, and we incorporate all those. So the bulk would happen in the first 30 days, and then the second month is usually wrapping up any loose ends. But we meet every Tuesday at 10 a.m. to discuss the transitions. If we do have a management company that's difficult, there's only one locally that has been difficult. I myself then get involved with their CEO to see how we can resolve it, and usually it happens fairly easy after we escalate it. So we don't usually anticipate problems. It goes fairly smoothly.
Okay. One other question on your app. Does it have the capability of, let's say we have a gate that goes down or something. Can you send out maybe a recorded message, a text, or an email to the community to tell them that they cannot get out the Pine Island gate, or a storm is coming, or, do you have that capability?
We do. You want to speak to it, Christine? I've used it for hurricane season and for pavement parking.
Yes, absolutely. So there's mass communication capability. It's commonly used in most associations that use our website, and even if you don't, we can still use that. Basically what happens is it auto-populates once we get all the information of emails. Usually it's email because people don't block the number thinking it's spam or things like that. So it's usually done through email. The manager has the authority through the board to send communications out. You can sort it out by, I noticed that you have a lot of sub-communities. When I was driving in, you can sort out by sub-community and just do e-blasts to those sub-communities, things like that. So yes, it's fairly commonly used.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay. Don or Ron, any follow-up questions? We have about 5 minutes.
No, thank you.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Bill?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and speaking with us today and meeting with us. We really appreciate it. And I'm just curious if you have any questions of us before we say our goodbyes.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Regarding the lifestyle director, do you still continue the program?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, unfortunately with COVID, it's, we're doing
been
a lot
a
of
bit
virtual and we're doing a lot of outside
Because I'm familiar
activities.
with that.
But yes, we employ a full-time lifestyle director.
I only have one question, and that is, what is the number one thing you're looking for in a management company?
All right. From a management company, we're looking for just addressing helping us with some of the key issues, such as customer service, the deed compliance program, the preventative maintenance, from a risk management standpoint, being proactive with the inspections. I think our community, we maintain a very ambitious schedule of activities from a lifestyle. And I think, Wendy, as you know from the RFP, we're starting construction, we're expanding, so that, once that is completed, there'll be a, even more robust schedule of activities, if you will. So coordinating all of that, making sure that the entire community is, have opportunities to enjoy all the amenities and activities that, we have here in the community. Anybody else? And of course, from a financial standpoint, that
Right.
we're on top of our game, and we
The
get
important
value, right? We get value for the monies, indeed. Anybody else?
No, I think that's
All right. So again, I'd like to thank the representatives from Precedent Hospitality for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Conway. I'm the president of the Sandoval Community Association, and I want to extend a warm welcome to each of you. Today we're meeting with representatives from First Service Residential, and on behalf of the Sandoval Community Association Board of Directors, again, I want to welcome you to Sandoval as we further our property management requests for proposal efforts. So joining us today are Travis Brandt, who was our point of contact for the RFP process. Thank you very much. He's the Director for Business Development in Estero, Florida. We also have Steve Harshman, the Vice President for Southwest Florida, Eric Davenport, the Regional Director, Crystal McClary, welcome, Operations Manager, Southwest Florida, and Mark Landis, sorry. And he's the Director, Client Relations Accounting. And you're based out of Hollywood, Florida, sir?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. Thank you. And on our side now, representing the board, I'll ask each of them to introduce themselves. And we'll start with the two that are on the phone calling in. Ron and Don? All right, and on our side, I'll ask the two directors that are on the phone to introduce themselves. Ron and Don?
I'm Don Wells, and I'm a director for the Homeowners Association.
And also on the phone, I'm not sure, is our Vice President, Ron Smith. Oh. All right, and then here in the room with us?
My name is Al Roper. I'm a director.
Bill Tubb, I'm the treasurer.
Melanie Palmer, Director.
And we also have Casey Pinella, our general manager, sitting with us here today. So thank you all. The format for today's interview session is a 15-minute presentation by our guests, followed by a 45-minute Q&A session here with the board. So we're excited to hear from you, and let's get started. I'll turn the floor over, and if you, again, would use the handheld mics, that'd be helpful. There are 4, so you'll have to pass to the 5th or share. Thank you. Welcome.
Perfect. Can you hear? Will we hear an echo or probably not? Okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Kathy. We appreciate it. It's wonderful to meet you. I know you and I have had a couple conversations through this process, but we just really appreciate the opportunity to come and meet here, especially in these times. It's nice to be face-to-face, even if we are distanced. For us, that's great, just to connect a little bit more. Certainly, we expect to learn from you all with the questions and the format of today, but we really wanted to spend our time this morning doing 2 things. The first is going to be introducing you to our team, so I'm going to let each of my teammates up here introduce themselves, share a little bit about their background, and then also just share a little bit about how they would support the community, the board, and all of the homeowners here at Sandoval. And that's really one of our unique values, is this expertise and this team that you will have here locally to handle or to help you handle what we would consider to be core management functions. A lot of what was listed in the RFP was centered around those core management processes. We would admit that with a community of this size and complexity, that does not make them easy, but we do believe that those are core management functions. The other part of what we'll talk about today has to do with our depth of resources and essentially the team behind this team, both technology, people, and subject matter experts that are going to be able to allow this team to do things that we feel no other property management company can do. We get incredibly excited about partnering and talking with a community of this size and scope, because it gives us the ability to really bring in all of those different resources and drive value for you as a community and as a board. That transcends the on-site management team. That's the board, that's the homeowners, and so we'll likely get into a number of those things today. That being said, we wanted to start off with our team their expertise and their involvement with you all. So like Kathy mentioned, my name is Travis Brandt. I am the Director of Business Development and Client Relations. The majority of my role centers around this process and making sure that we clearly understand what it is that the community will require and how we can support you to live out that vision and to deliver the type of service that you guys would like to deliver to your homeowners. I also help in other ways on the client relations side. I do some marketing here locally. I will moderate different types of board events and candidate nights or things of that nature. And so I'm really to be used as a resource. However, I can best be of service to our communities that we work with down here. Next, I'll let Steve introduce himself. He's our vice president for this area.
Hi, good morning. Like Travis said, my name is Stephen Harshman. I'm the Vice President of Southwest Florida for First Service. I'm very excited to be here and very proud of this team that's in front of you today. I have been with First Service for about 6 years, and before that I've had my own management company, and before that I was in the country club industry managing country clubs. So I have led teams managing large HOAs similar to yours. I have been involved in many projects with that. I am also an educator for CAMs to get their CEUs and their licenses as well. So we have a great team that's here, nice local footprint, and I'm very proud to be a part of it, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
My name is Eric Davenport. I'm one of the regional directors for First Service in this area. I've been with First Service for just over 5 years. I have been involved in managing or overseeing communities within our Fort Myers Beach, and Cape Coral area for that time. My portfolio consists of our larger luxury high-rises, our more heavily amenitized HOAs, lifestyle communities. I have been in this industry since 2012. With previous management company, I actually have some involvement in Somerville here within the community. I've actually sat in this very room with an annual meeting about 6 years ago. Local, live right around the corner. So within the last 12 months, again with some of our larger HOAs, I've actually been the one involved in transitioning our 2 large HOAs that we have taken on the last 12 months, which near almost 1,000 units each. So I would be the one that would be here to assist with the transition here within Sandoval. My roles also include training with our community managers, leading monthly, weekly trainings, also heavily within our region for training for our maintenance people as well too, for maintenance on the communities. As far as part of our transition, I'll say one of the biggest things that I think First Service will bring as far as a transition, one thing we have is with our customer care department and a recent transition that we actually have right now. We get a lot of communications into our customer care line, and the wonderful thing with that is right now with Bridgetown at the Plantation, which is one of the communities, we started October 1st. They have fielded about 350 phone calls and have had and been successful in answering about 90% of those, where those other 10% come to the property team to address, to make sure that the residents are getting their questions answered and the information that they do need. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Crystal McClary, and I'm a Florida native, actually born and raised here in Lee County. So hello to all of you. It's good to see you. The role that I play here in the Southwest Florida market is that of an operations manager. I am based in the corporate branch office, all along with the team here, and that is in Estero, just down the way. The main areas of my wheelhouse are transition, there's process, implementation, and follow-up, and also the administrative world, which is a big one. We can all agree that we need to focus on our people. So the main areas that you'll see me involved with your transition is that I'm the main point of contact for you as a resource, and also as the point of contact for our corporate team. And one of my favorite times throughout the transition is when I get to spend one-on-one time with you, such as yourself, Kathy, and Bill, for Avid processing. That's a system that we use, software, and we'll be training you on that. We also have the opportunity for one-on-one time amongst the board and some of our leaders in the community when we customize points for your resident portal. And that's an offer that we have for you as community websites according to the needs that we identify throughout this process of getting to know you. Also, we get to spend some time together on refining some of the processes that are working for you currently, and then we find if there are any challenges in the past, and that way I can act as an added layer of support both to your local management team and to your regional director, Eric here. One other place that I really enjoy spending time is with our administrators, looping back to the people that make the difference in the company and to your community. On a quarterly basis, we do have our team over to the Estero office, and of course at this time we're doing some things remotely with COVID, trying to be very safe and cognizant of those needs. But that's where we take the opportunity to hone in the skills. We revisit the original processes that were implemented within our people. That way we make sure that they are being effective for our communities and that they're definitely making a difference for the product and for the overall business that we're conducting on behalf of yourselves and the association. Thank you so much for having us here today. It's been a pleasure. I'll hand it over to Mark right down the way.
Hey guys, can you hear me? My name is Mark Landis. I'm a CPA MBA. I've been working with First Service since May of last year. I've done a couple critical roles. I've had the experience of working with your department and your accountants. So I actually was the manager for a brief time while somebody was on leave. That gives me a lot of experience with the people and the players who will be putting together your financials. My role here is to be the liaison between the accounting and you guys, because sometimes the numbers don't really make sense. Sometimes we have to apply Florida statute. So my role here is to try to make them as transparent and understandable as possible within the guidelines of Florida statute. So part of my role is going to the CPAs and communicating with them what your strategies are and making sure that you guys are on target. Another part of my roles here is to help with the startup and the transition. You know, we'd like to go through your financials and make sure that these are something that you guys are proud of and can understand and can share with your membership.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. So I think with the rest of the 5 minutes or so that we have, we just wanted to touch on a couple quick areas of the proposal. Again, and some of that was referenced by our team with some recent experiences that we've had, but areas that support this team that really we feel make a difference in servicing a community of this size. So besides the people, our scale allows us to have quite a bit of technology support and different tools that our team is able to use in order to manage their day-to-day business and communicate with our ownership. Our technology that we use is called Connect, very original name. But it is something that is a proprietary system that we created based on the experience of working with large HOAs like you. One of the main differentiators of Connect is that it integrates all of the different areas of the operation of an association. And so Connect includes the website and what we call the resident portal that allows all of the homeowners to log in and get real-time access to all of their information. That system allows us to communicate seamlessly with the community. It has the ability to communicate with some or all, depending on what's going on. That system also allows different viewer models for homeowners versus board members. And so what I mean by that is you all, as board members, when you log in, there will be a higher level of viewership to the information that you have available. So things like violations and financial reports and delinquencies and things that maybe the everyday owner would not be able to see. It's all right in one place for you all. From the owner perspective, they have a ton of information as well. There's interactive calendars that we're able to update here on site. Our team uses the exact same technology to manage their business. And so it's an integrated system that really allows for the clear distribution of information as we want it distributed. For a community of this size and in looking at your staffing model, the violation piece of that technology is also going to be something that's very helpful, and we've seen in some of our recent communities. The system also has a mobile app. And so typically, our violations coordinator is able to just use their device while out on site looking for those violations and loads them instantaneously. So there's no more taking a picture, going back to the office, having to print out a letter, etc. They're able to identify the violation, load that into the system. A letter is automatically generated to go out to the homeowner. And then our management team, our regional team, and the board would all have easy access to that information. Just one example of the transparency of that system with some of the functions that may be going on with you all. One other piece that integrates into that system, and Eric touched on this a little bit, and it's a true differentiator for First Service, is our customer care center. And so our care center, we have two, one in Hollywood and one in Las Vegas. Those individuals are First Service associates, so this is not a third-party company or some answering service. They also have access to our Connect system. And so one of the first things that Crystal begins to tackle in a transition is answering over 700 specific questions that are just about your community that are then fed to our customer care team that allow them to provide service and answers. Eric made reference to our current transition that's happening right now at Bridgetown at the Plantation, which is a 985-unit community just up in Fort Myers. We are 15 days into that transition, and that team, as he mentioned, has been able to answer over 350 phone calls, simple questions that our on-site team has not had to necessarily take time out of their day to answer. They've been able to answer that with a 90% first call resolution. Typically those calls last 40 seconds or less, and only 10% of those calls, about 35, have been escalated to the property team and to Eric to follow up and answer those questions that may be more specific. So it's an incredible tool that our team is able to use, one, to provide service, but also to allow our on-site teams to just be very dynamic. And that was a great example, and I'm sorry I had you give it right up front, but it was excellent. Great tool. It's also our after-hours line, which oftentimes is what those are used for with many other companies, and it has an escalation to this local team here. Should an after-hours emergency be happening, we're able to build that workflow. However, we customize that to each specific community.
I'll mention on that too. Again, as he had mentioned, these are actually First Service employees. They work through with our Connect system. One of the benefits, again, it's not a call service, so it has a more personal touch for your residents whenever they call in, because their address is loaded in, their phone number is loaded in, and it'll pull up. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I see that you're Sandoval. How can we help you out today? So they're not having to call in and go, yes, I'm so and so. This is my address. I'm at this community. So it helps to offer. Some of the questions in your typical call centers you're already through a lot faster, and you're getting to that resolution, and there's more personal touch with the service.
And one other thing that's really neat about the call center is they help build your database as well. So when they call in and they see that there's phone numbers or there's no phone numbers, they verify, is this your most recent contact? Is this your email address? So they build that database, which is extremely important. So I want to add that in.
Thank you. The last thing that I will add on that is that, again, as I mentioned, there are two customer care centers. And so we had situations in the past, emergency situations or otherwise, where potentially a call center could go down. They might have to evacuate. There may be some type of emergency. Because we operate on a global basis and operate under one management system, we're able to flip a switch and have those calls transferred to our other call centers. So there is that level of security and that knowing that if they're going to call, regardless of what's happening here locally, regardless of what's happening throughout the state, that somebody will be there to answer those questions. And again, our team is able to plug directly into that system. We can provide alerts if something urgent is happening as well. And so it really assists the on-site team in providing that higher level of service and just making sure that all of our homeowners are getting the service that we've gathered this team wants to provide their community. There's a lot of other information I know that we provided in our proposal. We wanted to just touch on a couple things here, but we're certainly interested and excited to hear your questions. Again, our goal today is just to demonstrate this team's expertise and the people that will be hands-on in working with your property team and this board. And based on those questions, we look forward to diving in a little bit more to those depth of resources as well.
Great, thank you. And implementation and maintenance and usage by Sandoval, that's included in the management fee, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so why don't we start, Melanie is our technology person, so I'd like to kick off with her because she's excited.
I'm really interested to hear a little bit more about this. One of the things that we tend to struggle with is getting communication out, and the concept of being able to have a handheld app or something like that so that we're not just depending on people to go to our website or go find an old email that's out there. So can you tell me a little bit more about how your app is leveraged in other communities and what some typical scenarios on how residents have benefited from it?
Sure, and I'll start, and then if you guys want to fill in, please do. So there's two apps, but there's the associate app, which, for example, the violations coordinator, would use that. The property team would use that primarily. Mm-hmm. The homeowner side app that you're referring to, yes, that's found in the Apple iStore. It's found in the Android App Store. It is something where they can download that for free, and that is a direct link into what we call the resident portal. So a homeowner is then able to go into that app. They're going to see all of their information. So they'll see balance information for quarterly assessments. They might see any pending violations that they may have. They'll have access to the community calendar and any of the events that are currently happening or planned in the coming months. What other functionality?
I mean, you touched on a lot of them. I think the other item would be it's capable of work orders as well. If a homeowner wants to enter a work order and communicate directly with the property manager, that's a capability as well.
And does it use the native notifications within the phone, or is it a website that I can pull up on my phone?
No, it's an app, and so it's using the regular notifications directly from the app. Mm-hmm. I believe when I downloaded it, I actually live in a first service community, so when I downloaded it, I think it was much like other apps where it just allows it to send notifications. Right. As long as you provide it with that permission, mm-hmm. It will notify you messaging and things like that. If there's a new violation, if there's something new for your profile, your property profile, mm-hmm. It will do that.
And then just because the work order thing has come up a couple of times, how are those sent? So if somebody calls from the call center and then that gets escalated back to our local team, what system do you use? Is that something that's the work order tool that they would then work from a queue?
So there isn't a third-party tool that integrates for work orders or for violations. That is built into the system itself and built into the Connect framework. Okay. However, it's a great point because all of those issues or work orders would be documented. And so I guess, first of all, any call into the customer care center is documented. Even if they went ahead and solved that issue and no follow-up is required, right. Our property teams and our regional teams are using that just to be proactive. They're trying to see what people are calling about, if we can send an extra communication, if we can get in front of something that we're realizing is an issue. The amount of information there helps our teams tremendously. If a follow-up is required, they do create a ticket, and that's for either the property team or the regional team. Board members will have access to that view. And so as board members, and Crystal leads all of our trainings, so she's making sure through a transition that all of you are very comfortable with using the systems or the tools that we would be introducing. All of those tickets or follow-ups would be listed there along with notes from our property team. So you can see if they've been called back. For us, we have an expectation that we're calling people back by the end of the next business day at the latest. And so there are notes and comments in that system to ensure that we're doing that effectively. Work orders, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but those can either be put in by the property team, the maintenance resources. Can homeowners put them in themselves? Homeowners can put those in themselves from their resident portal also. Same concept where there's going to be that layer of transparency where board members and the property team are able to look at the open tickets. We're able to search closed tickets. There's a lot of information as far as when it was reported, what kind of notes or comments go along with that. The goal there is just to be transparent, to make sure that everybody has the information and everyone's on the same page.
And just to touch a couple more things on it, it's a great management tool. So from the top down, to be able to look at a report that typically we would include in our monthly managers report, where you can see how many people have called in for your community. You can see what ticket hasn't been closed out. Same thing with the work orders. You can adjust the workflow also. So if you had a maintenance supervisor or something along the lines of that, you can adjust how that ticket flow works. So it's a very useful tool to manage your team, your on-site team, to make sure. So, if we're saying, we're getting a lot of calls, you can actually see we're getting a lot of calls. Workflow or the work orders, you can actually see what your teams are doing as far as work orders are going, so you can have an idea how busy they are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a great management tool.
Great. Thank you. Al?
At your current locations, do you have a dedicated maintenance person that would handle like a broken door, entry gate malfunction, perimeter fence being hit by a lawnmower, something like that, or do you mainly have it done, the work done by outside vendors?
So we had a maintenance guy that would do just that, and it worked out well. However, we couldn't keep him busy enough, so we had to make a business decision and move him somewhere else. So currently, we use third-party vendors to assist and stuff like that, but we do have vendors that we work with locally that will be able to help you out with that.
Okay, so then how do you have do you use like a checklist to do inspections to make sure that things are in good shape, or how is that done if you use outside vendors?
So the property manager would do an inspection, find out what needs to be worked out, what needs to be fixed, based on what I don't know if you have maintenance team in-house here, but so you determine what can be done in-house, and then what you can't do, what is outside the scope of work that your guys can't do, we would coordinate with you depending on how the management structure is set up. If the manager has an allowance to spend up to an X amount of dollars and it's within budget, then what they would coordinate with the vendor. If it requires board approval, then we'd submit invoices and proposals and cost analysis, and then we would make a decision together on how to move forward.
Okay.
I'd actually like to follow up on that. So as part of our startup transition process, one of the things we would be doing is looking at all of your systems within the community, documenting those, what kind of conditions are they in, and really building that kind of schedule of what kind of, because you asked about a checklist. So every community being property specific, yes, they would have a checklist, and we would evaluate and look at things, get with the on-site maintenance team, and have, hey, what are the things that you're touching daily, you're checking on, what are the things monthly, weekly, bi-monthly, within those different intervals throughout the year, and what kind of maintenance they need, or at least to look at. As far as your maintenance of, if something happened with the gate system, you have your on-site maintenance staff. Those maintenance staff, are trained, and they are really the first source to show up and evaluate what's going on. And if it's something they can repair, like somebody just knocked an arm off, a lot of times, we can put the arm on. There's not bringing a company out. But if it's something a little past what their normal scope is, it does require that professional, then they are reaching out to that professional in order to, get that work done, and whatever may need to be repaired, get it repaired.
Okay. Thank you.
We also have a quality assurance team, which somebody who is trained and licensed in inspecting a lot of large systems that you see within a community. And that's typically one of the first things we like to do in a transition is get them out just to evaluate, the conditions that have proper notice signs on it, those conditions, and they put it all together with each of those components in a nice report and score it. It gives us a good basis to know kind of where the community is at and where it needs to go, and that's something that we can share with the board as well.
Okay. Another question, your Connect app, does it have the ability to send out a voice alert or a text, or in case let's say the power went out at our north gate, we can't get out that way, maybe there's a weather event approaching, does it have that capability to alert the community?
Yes, it can do either text message or voice memo, and that can be sent out instantaneously with 2 or 3 clicks from the Connect system. That was actually a huge resource for us a couple of years ago during Irma, where we were able to go around, and many folks, including our property teams, had to evacuate. but people were, and that was one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we got, was how helpful that was when a regional team was able to go onto the property and say, we just want to let everyone know that we've been there. We didn't see anything, overly significant, that the buildings are still there, and we'll be updating you as we can. And to the point that most of our properties were sending daily updates to their homeowners, because it's that easy. It's an 800 number. It's a property code. You record your message, you confirm it, and it's out. And so thank you for asking the question, because that's another great aspect of that system that helps us communicate that much more effectively.
Thank you.
And I'll follow up on that too, because with my within our systems and my understanding as far as in working on the properties, I have a little more personal experience probably add on to some of these things. So not only is it be able to send a voice message or a text message, an SMS, it can also be done by just doing an email blast as well within that system. Also, let's say for instance in communities as large as this, water main breaks happen. So you have a water main break happen, it's reported to us, we can actually go right on and set a pop-up alert for our customer care department. So when that resident calls in, because it's always inherent that residents, other residents are calling in to notify us, all right, hey, yes, we're aware of it, we're working on it, and this is the current status of it, and we can update that. And the beauty of it is that we don't have to be here on site or in front of a computer. Those kinds of systems, and those kinds of messages and alerts can actually all be done right from the Associate app right on a mobile device. So it makes it very nice and convenient.
Very good. All right. Bill?
Oh, you're not going to go to...
Oh, no. Why don't you go first?
Okay.
I'll text them there next.
In the proposal that I've got in front of me, healthcare, it says $511 per month per employee for $11,688. Is $511 per month per employee the amount that would be charged back to Sandoval for our full-time employees?
It is, with the one caveat that we're only charging those amounts for the associates that would elect those benefits. And so there's really two different models in this industry. One is to charge based on election, which is how we do it. And so, yes, that number is correct. The other is to work that into a payroll burden or a payroll rate, where it's just a flat fee and you're paying it either way. So we charge based on that employee electing into those benefits, if that makes sense.
Well, the number that I'm seeing here is $11,688. That would be $900 and something a month. So for 5 employees, that'd be $30,000 a year. Does that sound right to you? It would be charged back.
If they all elect into
if they
it,
elect
that
into
sounds
it.
right, yes.
Okay. So that needs to be changed on this, doesn't it? Or,
Okay. We can discuss offline, yeah.
Okay. Does our CPA auditing our financials have remote access to our records in your system?
Yes, they do. About 12 years ago, First Service did a big investment. So we use a software called CAM Accounting. And basically, they will have access along with your attorney. So anything that your attorney or your CPA are going to need, they're able to actually do an audit anywhere in the state of Florida or anywhere in the world for that matter. And they have access to pulling up invoices. They'll have access to pulling up general ledger reports. They can pull up a various amount of different reports that they need to conduct the audit.
Okay. Also, you mentioned Avid as your accounting software. Is that the same as Avid Exchange for strong room accounts payable processing?
Yes, it integrates with our CAM Accounting. So that's part of what we use.
Well, we're currently using strong room, so that's good.
Very similar. Bill, who is your auditor, if we may ask?
Tony Gregory in Orlando.
Okay.
We work with Tony as well.
Okay.
There's probably several dozen CPAs that we work with. Tony's one of them. I actually took a phone call from him a few months ago. So during season, I become good friends with them because they're asking me tricks and tips on how to use the software, and we're working with them to ensure that your audits are getting on a timely basis.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, on the phone, Don or Ron, your questions, please.
Do you have a monthly deadline that you would provide the monthly financials by?
Monthly financials? Well, we go over, basically the team will come up with a deadline date with you guys. We have some partner banks that will expedite the process. You can pick your banks. However, sometimes some banks take a little bit longer for us to get those bank statements. So what we try to do is accommodate. So if you guys have a meeting on a specific date and you need a financial, we'll try to do our best to accommodate. Definitely it would help if you sign on to some partner banks, and we have quite a list of partner banks, probably many that you are already working with as is.
Yeah, and I guess I would just add, if I could. So that's part of this depth that we talk about, and we do have a group within First Service called First Service Financial. They maintain relationships with a number of different partner banks. I believe the number now is up to about 36. So we work with the community through that. First Service, it's not our bank accounts, and so that's always a distinction that I like to make clear, that it is still the association's bank accounts. But because of the partnerships, it allows us to have a much clearer picture into those accounts and get real-time reporting. And so when a community is using our partner banks, it allows Mark and his team to provide and access that information much more quickly at month end, which then just leads to a much quicker delivery of the prior month's financial. It also allows the property team to log in through CAM Accounting, as he mentioned, and produce real-time reports if it's not at month end. And so, great question, but it's something where that's just an added layer of that depth that just helps our team deliver those things more quickly to you on an ongoing basis.
Thank you. How many communities in Florida do you currently manage, and how has that number increased or decreased in the past 5 years?
So currently in Florida, we manage roughly 2,000 community associations, and that's by and far the largest of any firm that's operating in the state. On a state level, I'm not sure exactly where we've tracked in the last 5 years. I know we are growing. I know that organizationally we have a retention rate of about 96% year over year of our communities stay with us. I can tell you in Southwest Florida, I moved down here from Orlando with First Service about 3 years ago. In that period of time, this local team went from 15 properties to, I think, roughly 32 right now. And very proudly have not lost a single property of a cited team type in that amount of time. Even longer than that, but I know that I've been here for the last 3 years. So retention is something that's incredibly important to us. Service delivery is incredibly important to us. And this is, to be very honest, this is a market for First Service that is smaller than some of our comparable markets throughout the state as far as our local footprint. But we're growing quickly. We're doing it without losing any customers. And it's important to us that those communities that we're bringing on are very, very happy with our services. Quite frankly, I'm going to be calling you back to be a reference for new communities. And so it's very important to us to make sure that our boards are taken care of and that the communities are happy with the work that we're providing.
Thank you.
Don, do you have a question?
Yes, I wanted to know how they work with the assets and how do they determine when they need to be replaced? What kind of mechanisms do you utilize for maintaining existing amenities and buildings?
Sure. So I guess, we work with a lot of industry professionals. And so, I guess the first thing I think of when you say that question would be a reserve study. That's not something that we provide, but we work with many companies that do. As part of the depth that we talk about, and am I correct in that you guys have plans for a new clubhouse at some point in the near future? And so one of the things that was included in our proposal that we shared and are obviously happy to elaborate on is our QA and value engineering teams that assist this local property team. So in that situation, Eric referenced it, our QA manager, Ramon, would be able to make a trip out, typically spends the day at the community, walking around the property, documenting different mechanical systems or physical systems or the buildings itself. They're looking at the current state of that equipment, of those buildings, of the property itself. They're putting a score to that state of repair, and then they're assisting our local teams with setting up preventative maintenance schedules, in setting up tasks and what activities we need to be doing. They may recommend, if there are service contracts from local providers that we need to do, that what areas of the property would need those or would benefit from that type of ongoing maintenance. And so I guess the point, we aren't relying specifically on your on-site maintenance team to make those determinations. There are individuals with engineering backgrounds that are coming in. Typically they come in annually, and they're updating those reports and making sure that our team is working to maintain and preserve those elements as long as they can.
All right, well, thank you.
All right. Tell us a little bit about how you would support us with vendor oversight, ensuring that the vendors are meeting the terms of the contracts. You know, we have large landscaping, gates, internet contracts.
Either of you guys want to chime in on that one? Well,
the on-site team will be ultimately responsible for ensuring that the contracts are current and up to date. Within the Connect is a way to upload the contracts, and if you upload it correctly, you get to enter in certain information. It helps keep, and you can pull the report, and it helps keep track of your contracts that way. Mm-hmm. So, but as far as contract compliance, ultimately it's going to be your property manager on-site team that's going to be overseeing that, but they're going to have the support of your regional director like Eric, and then of course if I need to step in, I can assist as well. But again, quality assurance is huge when it comes to maintenance. That's a great report. And then also just we have preferred partners that we work with in the vendors area, and so that's more like globally. But we also have a preferred vendor list that's more locally with local vendors like the plumbers, electricians, and such.
Okay, good.
I'd like to follow up on that if I may. I did notice that you all have mulching going on right now as a community project. So let's take that as an example. It's a big line item in many communities' overall budget. And so that's one investment that you would be making, that you would want your manager to not only make sure that the right color is there, the right areas are being applied to, but also, was it done effectively? So did we meet that commitment that we made to the community? And also, what was that communication like? If there were any setbacks, was that communicated from the landscaping project manager to your property team, so that we can then in turn alert the homeowners? Because I'm sure you all have had experience where a homeowner says, hey, why didn't my bushes get trimmed, or why didn't my area get mulched? Then we're getting ahead, like how Eric said, of those calls and of that influx. So the way that we identify those opportunities, I'll allude to, or go back to where I was saying before, we find out what has been working in the past for you. Mm-hmm. We identify where those opportunities are in the future. And one of the things that we do is we do like to implement maybe weekly or bi-weekly landscape tours. Maybe the same thing, we're meeting with the pool company to see if there's any opportunities for repair or needs at the resort pool. Beautiful one that you guys have here.
Yeah.
Or maybe over at the dog park, where is the landscaping going to be different over there than where it is in a different common area, because we have an influx of maybe pests, or maybe the grass is getting burnt because of our friends that are visiting that area. So all of that comes back to transparency, the communication tools that we use, and the follow-up. And that backs up to the original experience that we have walking in the door.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you.
And real quick, something else I forgot to mention. Also, one of the things that we'll be doing within the first 90 days is creating a property plan for your property. And basically, it's an annual plan that says, and it's kind of like a calendar, if you will, but it's laid out a little bit differently. And it lays out the plan for the whole year. And then that'll be shared with you to discuss priorities, and also when projects will fit better in that schedule. We can't pile up all of our projects in 1 month. We need to just plan accordingly. And so with this plan, you'll be able to see and be able to plan and prioritize a lot better with this plan. That'll be something that'll happen within the first 90 days.
Okay, very good. Not sure if you're going to want to do more questions.
Yeah, I've got one. When you first enter a new a community, whether it be personnel, maintenance, deed restrictions, or financial issues, what is the greatest challenge that you usually have to address?
So I think oftentimes it's the information that we have access to. And so I think I would use Bridgetown, our most recent, as a perfect example, and there are some similarities between the property. There were some, maybe call them hurt feelings in the transition, and so there were not documents and community information was not offered to us freely from prior management. And so we were, as part of our transition process, one of the very first things that we do is schedule a kickoff meeting between this team, it would be us, and the board, and that's really mapping out what that transition looks like. Sometimes we call that the come to Jesus meeting because then we're partners and we just want to be honest. But in this situation, because we didn't have faith that when we reached out to prior management that they would be giving us the information that we needed, that Mark's team needed, that Crystal's team needed to really get those things going and stay on schedule. And so we shared that with the board and asked if they could help. And so we provided them a list about a week before that kickoff meeting of items that would be especially helpful for us to receive. Things like the prior month's financial, things like a full roster of the community with emails and phone numbers and addresses and things of that nature. It allowed our team, the transition team that Crystal leads, to really get a jump and not wait for somebody else to give us that information. I think we see it all the time where the start date comes, and even if we had 30 days or 60 days up to that, people expect things to work when you're here. And so, the excuse that, well, they never gave that to us is just not something that anybody wants to hear, nor do we want it to ever cause delays for our team. And so I would say communication. I would say that partnership that we've had with this specific board, our ability to communicate with them, and them to help us essentially get what we need to build these frameworks for the technology, to provide the financial team with what they need to start that process, to get banks established, to make us able to pay bills on day one and all of those different things. It all really starts with just getting that information so that our team can get to work behind the scenes. And so that's something that we don't always control as far as what information will be given to us and when. But again, working closely with a board, communicating very effectively. We were meeting with them weekly. Those were things that allowed us to really eliminate any serious delays. And if any one of our processes was being held up, we were able to share that with them. We were able to identify what pieces of information was holding us up, and we were able to get that and just continue to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I have a question, Travis. You said that the last 3 years you went from 15 communities to upward of, 33, I think you said. So what's the breakout condos versus, or high-rise condos versus HOA single-family home communities?
We are almost 50-50, which kind of makes us laugh when we look at it. And regardless, we don't target one over the other. We're not, those are really our two areas of, our bread and butter, if you will. Both of those property types are very different, but the tools that we have and kind of those resources lead with impact. The majority of our properties are of the larger variety with sited staff and those kinds of things, only because that's typically where we find that we can drive more impact. We do have some smaller ones throughout this area, but oftentimes those are just communities that have really recognized that they require a higher level of service, versus all the other options that are out there.
All right, and then I have a question regarding COVID. In March, everybody took steps, right? Proactive steps to shut down amenities to ensure that, to help stop the spread. We have reopened our pool. We're operating under the Florida state of emergency that I believe expires November 3rd, right? Yep. So I have two questions. One of which is, what guidance are you providing to your communities? And then secondly, from a budget standpoint, certain residents have been impacted on a financial level, and going into the 2021 budget, what guidance are you providing to HOAs?
Sure. So I'll maybe cover the guidance and response, and then if you guys want to talk about the budget and financials. So, unprecedented, right? I mean, something that nobody ever saw coming, couldn't have planned for. everything in the book. And so I will say that this is an area, we've seen it in the past with things like hurricanes as well, but it's an area where I certainly don't want to say that we get excited, but it's where our depth allows us to handle those situations differently than many of the other organizations. And so it was very interesting to watch that within days we had a task force set up for Florida that was monitoring all of the information that was changing by hour, that was tied in, and just with the number of properties that we managed, they had direct connections to CDC and different organizations that were providing those guidances. That team was also doing weekly webinars, updates for our property teams and for our regional teams to get all the most recent information out. And another thing that they did and continued to update, and I'm actually going to leave this behind for you guys. It's a comprehensive guide. This is the 4.0 version. It had gone through several versions, but it's an 80-page guide that essentially provides guidance. And even if you guys look at nothing else, you can just look at the table of contents, and it's just so much information in there that really helped our teams manage that appropriately and effectively. One thing that we did not do was tell our properties what they had to do. We manage, we don't govern. And so, we were providing a lot of guidance. Much of it was in line with what you were hearing from the state and local authorities. We were certainly mindful of keeping our staff safe and making sure that they were protected and taken care of. But we weren't making decisions as far as amenity centers or anything like that. Our value engineering team did have connections with providers, and so even when hand sanitizer and wipes and those things were out, masks, we had stocks of those over in Hollywood, and those were getting delivered out to every market if they weren't able to find them on their own. So we were able to facilitate things like that just through buying power and different things. But it was something where there was so much information that was coming out and so much guidance that was coming out, and we weren't forcing anybody to do anything, but we were really on the forefront of the information and just the guidance, I guess. The guide was something that was actually released publicly. It didn't need to just be for us. We wanted to just help where we could. And so that was actually just released through the media for community associations to take advantage of. So we even heard from many self-managed communities that it helped, for example. So a lot of support in that area was available. And again, a lot of different ways, to Al's point, in providing those updates to people if communities chose to take actions with amenity centers or pools or those kinds of things. We could let people know right away what was happening.
Speak to the accounting portion. Right away, we had many task force that got together that understood that we need to keep the continuity and make sure that you're getting a timely financial. So there was many task force that we had to ensure that you guys would get your financials on time. Another thing that we had done was we had noticed that expenses had changed drastically. So we put together a task force that actually put together a budget tool to do modified budgets in the middle of the year for some of our associations that were drastically changed by this. And some places need more cleanup crews, some places need more supplies. Definitely, depending upon the lifestyle of the community, we went to accommodate and we went to go there and give them better information and ensure that they can continue as if nothing was going on outside. So,
good, thank you.
And one other thing I want to touch on. So we talked about our partner banks. For us, updating signature cards with our partner banks, it was seamless. Now, if you didn't have a partner bank, a lot of the times you would have to go to the bank to request the signature cards or whatever the case might be, and you couldn't do that unless you had an appointment and so on and so on. So it became very cumbersome for us to update signature cards when they're outside of the partner banks because of their regulations with CDC. So that's being involved in our partner banks is a huge resource, especially when something like COVID comes along.
Very good. Don, are you on the phone? Do you have a question?
No, I'm on the phone. I do not have any questions. Thank you.
I'm going to ask your question. First Service, you're very big in North America. I think you're in over 20 states, right, and Canada. So from a Sandoval hub standpoint, what's the reach back? We would go to Estero. That would be, just tell us how the organization works.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you asked. And that was, again, one of the main reasons why we wanted this team to be here today. And so really from, we'll walk through the property team and up. And so that first level, the direct support would be Eric as a regional director. Lives right around the corner. We would have the expectation that he would be here often to support the team any way that they would need it. Certainly, he's a go-to for many of our boards with whatever it is you're talking about. From Eric, it would go to Steve. And Steve is kind of the top guy here locally out of the Estero office. So Southwest Florida is Steve's world. Past Steve, our headquarters for what we call our South region, which is Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee, is located just across Alligator Alley. And the president of that region is Robert Smith, who is over here often. Used to live in this area, has a lot of knowledge of this area. Also,
I'm sorry, where is that across in Miami?
Right in Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Just across
That's
Alligator
right, Hollywood.
Alley. Yep. Ironically, right on the other side of the highway from that office would be our global headquarters with that covers all of our regional offices. That you're correct. I believe it's 28 states and 3 provinces in Canada currently. And so we feel very fortunate. Mark and some of the other folks that come over here often joke with us all the time that they can get to our market more quickly than they can get to certain places on the East Coast. They can get here quicker than they can get to certain parts of Miami. And so we're fortunate that we are close enough that our depth in that scope is really hands-on here. They don't even have to hop on a plane. It's an hour and a half. They're making day trips all the time. And so we wanted to stress that as you go outward in our organization, they're still close by. They're still very much hands-on. But it's something where to us, that depth is really a resource of this team. And I think we just wanted to stress that, this would not be the only time that you would see these people. Sometimes folks come to these kind of things and you meet them here and that's great. But these are people that would be intimately involved, especially with a community of this size. There would be support from these individuals, among others.
Super, thank you. Anyone? Any last questions? Bill?
No.
Melanie? No. Yeah? All right. I just want to say thank you. We appreciate you coming in, spending some time with us today. I think this has been very helpful, very informative. It's been a pleasure working with you. And if no one else has any additional comments, do you have any questions of us before we say our so long?
I think we would thank you guys as well. We understand that there's a lot of information that I'm sure you guys are working through. Big decision, especially for a community of this size. We recognize that you don't want to do this all the time. You'd like to find somebody and have it be the right fit. There was a ton of information that was covered. There's a lot of technology that we talked about and capabilities and those kinds of things. So I would just offer if there's needed follow-up or anything, we would certainly make ourselves available for demonstrations, additional examples of information that we've referenced or anything like that. But certainly I think our questions would maybe come at a next step type of format. And so likewise, we would thank you guys for your time and just letting us come in and chat with you today.
Great. Thank you very much. So this concludes the presentations. Vic, thank you so much. Everyone have a good day.